when the Earth breathed for the first time. Hey there, how was your day? Welcome to this quiet corner of scientific wonder, where we'll explore one of the most profound mysteries our planet has ever held. How life first emerged from the primordial darkness. Whether you're settling in for the evening or seeking a moment of calm contemplation, thank you for joining me on this journey through deep time. If you find comfort in these gentle explorations of science, I'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing and liking this video. It helps the algorithm find more sleepy minds and souls like us, who have an amazing curiosity and passion for science in their minds. The visuals are here for you, but feel free to close your eyes, breathe deep, and let your imagination do the floating. I would love and encourage you to watch the video till the end to learn many new things. But there is absolutely no problem if you doze off midway through the video. The universe holds countless mysteries, and we have all the time we need to discover them together. Tonight, we're embarking on a voyage that spans nearly 4 billion years, tracing the delicate steps that transformed a sterile volcanic world into the vibrant living planet we call home. It's a story that begins not with grand gestures or dramatic explosions, but with the quietest whispers of chemistry, the most subtle dance of molecules in ancient seas. Imagine, if you will, a world so alien it might as well be on another planet entirely. No green forests, no blue skies, no gentle rain, just endless oceans beneath a sky tinged with methane and carbon dioxide, where the young sun burned with a cooler, more orange light than we know today. This is the Earth of 4 billion years ago, a world that would be utterly hostile to us. Yet somehow, in ways we're only beginning to understand, it held within its depths all the potential for every living thing that would ever exist. The story of life's emergence is perhaps the most beautiful mystery in all of science, a tale that connects the simplest chemical reactions to the vast complexity of consciousness itself. What led to this miraculous transformation? How did lifeless matter learn to live, to grow, to reproduce, to evolve? The answer lies not in any single moment of creation, but in a gradual symphony of chemistry that played out over hundreds of millions of years. It's a story of patience, of countless small steps, of molecules finding each other in the darkness and learning, ever so slowly, to dance together in patterns of increasing complexity. We'll begin our journey in the deepest ocean trenches, where superheated water rich in minerals gushes from cracks in the Earth's crust. Here, in environments that would seem utterly inhospitable to life as we know it, some scientists believe the first stirrings of biology may have begun. These hydrothermal vents, as they're called, create unique chemical conditions that can forge complex organic molecules from simple ingredients. Imagine columns of scalding water, laden with hydrogen sulfide and other chemicals, rising through the cold darkness of the deep ocean. Around these vents, metals precipitate out of solution, creating towering chimney-like structures that can reach several stories high. But it's not just the dramatic geology that makes these places special. The temperature gradients, the chemical concentrations, the unique mineral surfaces all combine to create what researchers call chemical gardens, where organic molecules can form and persist. In laboratories around the world, scientists have recreated these conditions and watched in wonder as simple inorganic chemicals spontaneously organize themselves into the building blocks of life. Amino acids, the components of proteins, form readily in these environments. Fatty acids, which can spontaneously create cell-like membranes, appear almost effortlessly. Even more remarkably, some of the chemical reactions that occur around these vents can store energy in molecular bonds, creating the first primitive metabolisms. Yet the hydrothermal vent hypothesis is just one possibility in what scientists call the origins of life puzzle. Another compelling theory suggests that life may have begun in shallow, warm pools on the early Earth's surface. These pools, heated by volcanic activity and concentrated by evaporation, could have created dense solutions of organic molecules. Unlike the crushing depths of the ocean, these surface environments would have been bathed in ultraviolet light from the young sun, providing energy for chemical reactions, while also creating the kind of wet-dry cycles that can concentrate and polymerize organic molecules. Picture these ancient pools, perhaps no larger than a backyard swimming pool, scattered across a volcanic landscape. During the day, the sun's energy would drive chemical reactions, creating complex organic compounds. At night, or during cooler periods, these compounds would concentrate as water evaporated. This cycle of wetting and drying, heating and cooling, could have provided the perfect conditions for simple molecules to link together into longer chains, eventually forming the first primitive proteins and nucleic acids. But perhaps the most intriguing possibility is that life began not in any single location, but through a gradual process that occurred throughout the early oceans. This theory, sometimes called the metabolism first hypothesis, suggests that life emerged from self-sustaining chemical networks that arose spontaneously in the primordial seas. Rather than starting with a single cell or even a single molecule, life may have begun as a web of interconnected chemical reactions that could maintain themselves and grow more complex over time. The early Earth's oceans were very different from today's seas. They were rich in dissolved metals, organic compounds, and reactive chemicals that had been delivered by countless meteorites and comets. In this chemical soup, networks of reactions could have formed that were capable of catalyzing their own production and growth. These weren't living organisms in any sense we would recognize, but they were the first systems that could maintain their own complexity and even reproduce their chemical patterns. What makes this theory particularly elegant is that it doesn't require any single unlikely event or perfect set of conditions. Instead, it suggests that life was almost inevitable, given the chemical richness of the early Earth. Wherever conditions were right for these self-sustaining chemical networks to form, they would have appeared spontaneously, eventually growing complex enough to develop the characteristics we associate with life: metabolism, reproduction, and evolution. The transition from chemistry to biology was not a sudden leap, but a gradual slope. The first proto-living systems were probably little more than self-replicating chemical reactions enclosed in simple fatty acid membranes. These primitive cells, if we can call them that, would have been incredibly simple, compared to even the most basic bacteria we know today. They had no DNA, no proteins as we understand them, no complex internal structures, yet they possess the fundamental characteristics that separate life from non-life. They could maintain their internal chemistry, they could reproduce, and they could evolve. The development of genetic material, the molecular machinery that stores and transmits hereditary information, represents one of the most crucial steps in life's emergence. Today, all life uses DNA and RNA for this purpose, but these molecules are incredibly complex. How could they have arisen from simpler precursors? The answer may lie in what scientists call the RNA world hypothesis. RNA, ribonucleic acid, is simpler than DNA but can perform many of the same functions. More importantly, RNA can act as both a storage medium for genetic information and as a catalyst for chemical reactions. This dual nature makes RNA a perfect candidate for the first genetic material. In the RNA world, simple RNA molecules could have catalyzed their own replication, while also controlling the production of other molecules necessary for primitive life. The beauty of this system is its bootstrapping nature. Once RNA molecules capable of self-replication appeared, they could begin to evolve through natural selection. Those RNA molecules that replicated more efficiently or more accurately would become more common, while less efficient ones would disappear. Over time, this process could have led to increasingly sophisticated RNA-based life forms, eventually giving rise to the DNA protein world we see today. But how did these first RNA molecules arise? This remains one of the deepest mysteries in origins of life research. RNA is composed of 4 chemical bases attached to a sugar phosphate backbone, and assembling these components into functional RNA requires specific conditions and catalysts. Some researchers have proposed that clay minerals could have provided the necessary catalytic surfaces, while others suggest that simple metabolic networks could have produced RNA components as byproducts of their chemical reactions. Recent experiments have shown that surprisingly complex RNA molecules can form under conditions that might have existed on the early Earth. When solutions containing RNA precursors are subjected to repeated cycles of heating and cooling, freezing and thawing, or wetting and drying, they can spontaneously produce RNA-like molecules with catalytic properties. These findings suggest that the emergence of genetic material might have been more probable than previously thought. The encapsulation of these early genetic systems in cell membranes represents another crucial step in life's emergence. Cell membranes serve multiple functions. They concentrate biochemical reactions, protect delicate molecules from the external environment, and allow primitive organisms to maintain internal conditions different from their surroundings. The formation of the first cell membranes might have been surprisingly straightforward. Certain types of molecules, particularly fatty acids and similar amphiphilic compounds, spontaneously form membrane-like structures when dissolved in water. These molecules have one end that likes water and another that avoids it, causing them to arrange themselves into double-layered sheets that can enclose volumes of water. In laboratory experiments, such molecules readily form vesicles, cell-like structures that can encapsulate other molecules, and even undergo primitive forms of division. The early Earth's oceans likely contained abundant fatty acids and similar compounds delivered by meteorites or produced through chemical reactions on the planet's surface. Under the right conditions, these compounds would have spontaneously formed countless microscopic vesicles, each potentially capable of encapsulating and concentrating the chemical reactions that were giving rise to life. As we trace this journey from chemistry to biology, we must remember that we're not describing a linear progression, but rather a complex web of interdependent processes. The emergence of metabolism, genetics, and cellular structure didn't happen in sequence, but rather co-evolved, each development enabling and being enabled by the others. This intricate dance of molecular innovation played out over hundreds of millions of years, with countless experiments in molecular organization occurring simultaneously across the planet. The early Earth provided numerous environments where these experiments could take place. Hydrothermal vents offered energy and unique chemical conditions. Shallow pools provided concentration mechanisms and solar energy. Deep ocean basins offered stability and protection from harmful radiation. Mineral surfaces provided catalytic sites for chemical reactions. Each environment contributed its own possibilities to the grand experiment of life's emergence. What emerges from this picture is not a single moment of creation, but a gradual awakening of matter to its own potential for complexity and organization. The boundary between living and non-living becomes blurred when we look closely at these early stages of life's emergence. The first proto-organisms were probably little more than self-sustaining chemical reactions, yet they possessed the spark of something profound, the ability to maintain, reproduce, and evolve their own complexity. This process, playing out in countless locations across the early Earth, eventually gave rise to the first true cells. These primitive organisms, probably similar to modern bacteria but even simpler, were the ancestors of all life on Earth. They were the first to successfully bridge the gap between chemistry and biology, transforming the sterile planet into a living world. The story of life's emergence reminds us that we are not separate from the natural world, but part of its deepest patterns. The same chemical principles that guided the formation of the first cells continue to operate in every living thing today. The carbon in our bodies, the water in our cells, the energy that powers our thoughts, all connect us to those ancient chemical gardens where life first stirred in the darkness. As you settle deeper into rest, perhaps you can sense something of this ancient connection, this unbroken chain of chemistry and biology that links you to the very origins of life on Earth. You are part of a story that began in the depths of primordial oceans, a story of molecules learning to dance together in ever more complex patterns, eventually giving rise to the remarkable phenomenon of consciousness that allows you to contemplate your own origins. The journey from chemistry to biology was not a destination, but a beginning. The first movement in a symphony of life that continues to play out around us today. In the gentle rhythm of your breathing, in the quiet beating of your heart, in the subtle electrical activity of your dreaming mind, the ancient dance of molecules continues, carrying forward the legacy of those first stirrings of life in the darkness of deep time. These primitive chemical networks, dancing in the darkness of the early oceans, were beginning to solve one of life's most fundamental puzzles: how to make copies of themselves. You see, for life to truly emerge, these molecular arrangements needed to do more than simply exist. They needed to reproduce, to pass their chemical secrets from one generation to the next. And so, in the depths of time, we encounter what scientists call the RNA world. Picture, if you will, a molecule that could serve as both library and librarian, both recipe and chef. RNA, ribonucleic acid, possessed a remarkable dual nature. Unlike its more famous cousin DNA, RNA could store genetic information while also acting as a catalyst, folding into intricate shapes that could speed up chemical reactions. In those ancient waters, RNA molecules began to emerge that could make copies of themselves. Not perfectly, mind you. These early replicators were prone to errors, mutations that would normally spell disaster. But in the context of early Earth, these mistakes became the raw material for something extraordinary. Each copying error created a slightly different molecule, and some of these variants were better at surviving, better at reproducing, better at competing for the limited resources in their chemical environment. This was evolution in its most primitive form, playing out not in forests or oceans filled with creatures, but in the molecular realm. RNA molecules that could copy themselves more efficiently began to dominate. Those that could resist degradation lasted longer, and those that could cooperate with other molecules began to form the first primitive genetic systems. But RNA alone could not build the complex structures that life would require. It needed partners, molecular allies that could provide structure and protection. Enter the fatty acids, simple molecules that had been forming spontaneously in the early oceans. These molecules possessed an almost magical property. When placed in water, they would spontaneously assemble into hollow spheres, creating the first primitive cell membranes. Imagine these early protocells as nature's first experiments in architecture. The fatty acid membranes provided a boundary, a way to separate the inside from the outside, to concentrate important molecules while keeping harmful ones at bay. Inside these protective bubbles, the chemical reactions that would become metabolism could proceed more efficiently, no longer diluted by the vast ocean around them. These protocells were not life as we know it, but they were something profound nonetheless. They were self-organizing systems that could grow, that could divide, that could evolve. When a protocell grew too large, the membrane would become unstable and split, creating two smaller cells. If one of these cells contained a particularly efficient set of RNA molecules, it would have an advantage over its neighbors, and so began the long dance of evolution, not with the dramatic flourish we might expect, but with the quiet persistence of chemistry. These early protocells faced challenges that would have seemed insurmountable. They had to develop ways to harvest energy from their environment, to build the complex molecules they needed, to repair the damage that constantly threatened their delicate structures. Some learned to capture energy from the chemicals seeping from hydrothermal vents, becoming the ancestors of organisms that still thrive in Earth's deepest places. Others discovered how to use the energy of sunlight, beginning the process of photosynthesis that would eventually fill our atmosphere with oxygen and change the planet forever. The transition from RNA world to the DNA-based life we know today was not a sudden transformation, but a gradual handoff of responsibilities. DNA, with its double helix structure, proved to be a more stable repository for genetic information. Proteins, with their incredible diversity of shapes and functions, became the molecular machines that would carry out the complex chemistry of life. But even as these molecular systems grew more sophisticated, they retained the fundamental characteristics that had emerged in those earliest protocells. They were bounded by membranes, they contained genetic material, and they could reproduce themselves. The basic architecture of life, established in those primordial waters, has persisted across billions of years and countless generations. What's perhaps most remarkable about this story is how it reveals life not as a singular event, but as an emergent property of chemistry itself. Given the right conditions, the right molecules, and enough time, the universe seems almost compelled to organize itself into increasingly complex patterns. The same forces that created the first protocells continue to operate today in every cell of your body, in every organism that has ever lived. The early Earth was not a gentle nursery for life's emergence. It was a world of extremes, of crushing pressures and searing heat, of toxic gases and violent storms. Yet it was precisely these harsh conditions that provided the energy and chemical diversity necessary for life to begin. The thermal vents that supplied energy, the lightning that sparked chemical reactions, the meteor impacts that delivered organic compounds from space, all of these contributed to the grand chemical experiment that would eventually produce the first living cells. As we drift deeper into this story, we can almost feel the rhythm of those early oceans, the gentle currents that carried the first organic molecules, the patient chemistry that slowly built complexity from simplicity, in the darkness of the deep sea, in the warmth of thermal vents, in the quiet pools where fatty acids assembled into membranes. Life was learning its first lessons, developing the molecular machinery that would eventually lead to forests and coral reefs, to dinosaurs and humans, to consciousness itself. The protocells that emerged from this primordial soup were our ancestors in the most literal sense. Every cell in your body can trace its lineage back to those first membrane-bound droplets of chemistry that learned to reproduce themselves in the ancient oceans. The genetic code that guides your development, the proteins that catalyze your metabolism, the membranes that define your cellular boundaries, all of these are refinements of innovations that first appeared in those earliest days of life on Earth. Tonight, as you rest, remember that you are part of an unbroken chain of life that stretches back nearly 4 billion years, to a time when the planet was young and the first protocells were learning to dance in the darkness of the deep. The same chemistry that animated those first living systems continues to animate you, connecting you to the deepest mysteries of existence itself. Tonight, we turn our attention to something truly extraordinary, the remarkable journey from the simplest chemical reactions to the first glimmers of what we would recognize as life. This is perhaps the most intimate chapter of our cosmic story. for it tells us how the very atoms that dance through your bloodstream, the molecules that carry your thoughts, and the intricate machinery of your cells first learned to work together in the primordial darkness of ancient Earth. Picture, if you will, our planet as it existed nearly 4 billion years ago. The surface was a restless canvas of volcanic fury and chemical possibility. Meteorites and comets delivered their cargo of organic molecules like cosmic care packages, while lightning carved electrical pathways through an atmosphere thick with methane, ammonia, and water vapor. It was a world that would seem utterly alien to us today, yet it was in this seemingly hostile environment that life found its first tentative foothold. The transition from non-living chemistry to living biology didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual, patient process that unfolded over hundreds of millions of years, driven by the same fundamental forces that govern all chemical reactions. In the depths of the ocean, around hydrothermal vents, where superheated water met the cold darkness of the deep, complex organic molecules began to form spontaneously. These weren't yet alive in any sense we would recognize, but they possessed something remarkable: the ability to catalyze their own formation, creating a self-sustaining cycle of chemical activity. These early molecular networks were like primitive chemical factories, each one a tiny experiment in organization and replication. Some configurations were more stable than others, some more efficient at gathering resources from their environment. Through countless iterations and refinements, these chemical systems gradually developed the fundamental characteristics that we associate with life: the ability to maintain their own structure, to grow, to reproduce, and to evolve. The emergence of RNA represents one of the most crucial developments in this early chapter of life's story. RNA is a remarkable molecule that can serve both as a storage medium for genetic information and as a catalyst for chemical reactions. In the primordial soup of early Earth, RNA molecules that could copy themselves had a distinct advantage. They could preserve successful chemical innovations and pass them on to their molecular descendants, creating the first rudimentary form of heredity. These self-replicating RNA systems weren't perfect. They made mistakes, introduced variations, and sometimes produced molecules that were slightly different from their predecessors. But this imperfection was actually a gift, for it provided the raw material for evolution. Those RNA molecules that were better at surviving and reproducing in their environment became more common, while less successful variants gradually disappeared. As these molecular systems grew more sophisticated, they began to surround themselves with protective membranes, creating the first protocells. These primitive cellular structures were far simpler than even the most basic modern bacteria, but they represented a crucial step forward. By creating a boundary between themselves and their environment, these early cells could better control their internal chemistry and concentrate the molecules they needed for survival. The development of DNA marked another revolutionary advancement. While RNA could store genetic information, DNA was far more stable and reliable. The double helix structure of DNA, with its complementary base pairs, provided a robust system for preserving genetic information across generations. Meanwhile, proteins evolved to carry out the complex chemical reactions that keep cells alive and functioning. This division of labor between DNA, RNA, and proteins created what scientists call the central dogma of molecular biology. DNA stores information, RNA helps translate that information, and proteins carry out the actual work of the cell. This elegant system of cooperation between different types of molecules became the foundation upon which all subsequent life would build. The earliest cells were remarkably simple compared to modern organisms, yet they possessed all the essential characteristics of life. They could extract energy from their environment, maintain their internal organization, respond to changes around them, and most importantly, they could reproduce. Each new generation carried forward the accumulated wisdom of billions of years of chemical evolution, encoded in the elegant language of DNA. These primitive cells faced a world of constant challenges. Resources were often scarce, environmental conditions could change rapidly, and chemical accidents could destroy the delicate molecular machinery that kept them alive. Yet life persisted, driven by the same fundamental principle that governs all evolution. Those organisms best adapted to their environment are most likely to survive and reproduce. Over time, some of these early cells developed the ability to harness energy from sunlight through photosynthesis. This revolutionary innovation not only provided these organisms with a reliable source of energy, but also began to transform Earth's atmosphere. The oxygen produced by photosynthesis was initially toxic to most life forms, but it eventually enabled the evolution of more complex organisms that could use oxygen for energy. The development of sexual reproduction marked another crucial milestone in life's journey. By combining genetic material from two different organisms, sexual reproduction accelerated the pace of evolution and increased the diversity of life forms. This innovation allowed organisms to adapt more quickly to changing environments and explore new evolutionary possibilities. As we trace this remarkable journey from simple chemistry to complex life, we begin to understand that the boundary between living and non-living matter isn't as sharp as we might initially think. Life emerged gradually from the chemical complexity of early Earth, building upon the fundamental properties of matter and energy that govern all physical processes. The story of life's origins reminds us that we are part of an unbroken chain of inheritance, stretching back to those first self-replicating molecules in the primordial ocean. Every cell in your body carries within it the accumulated wisdom of nearly 4 billion years of evolutionary experimentation. The proteins that enable your muscles to contract, the enzymes that digest your food, the DNA that stores your genetic information, all of these are refined versions of molecular systems that first appeared in the earliest cells. This connection to our ancient molecular ancestors is both humbling and inspiring. It reminds us that life is not separate from the physical universe, but rather represents matter and energy, organized in particularly elegant and complex ways. The same carbon atoms that form the backbone of your DNA may have once been part of a distant star, forged in the nuclear furnace of stellar cores and scattered across space by supernova explosions. As you rest tonight, consider the remarkable journey that brought you into existence. From the first flickering of chemical self-organization in the depths of ancient oceans to the intricate biological machinery that keeps you alive today, your very existence represents the culmination of the longest and most extraordinary experiment in the history of our planet. You are not merely an observer of life's story, you are its most recent and sophisticated chapter, carrying forward the molecular heritage of countless generations of ancestors, stretching back to the dawn of life itself. The emergence of life from non-life stands as one of the most profound transitions in the history of our universe. It represents the moment when matter first began to organize itself in ways that could preserve information, adapt to challenges, and create new possibilities for complexity and beauty. In your dreams tonight, you carry forward this ancient legacy, a living testament to the remarkable creativity and persistence of the evolutionary process that connects all life on Earth to its humble chemical origins in the darkness of the primordial sea. Now that we've explored the molecular dance of life's origins, we arrive at a profound moment in our cosmic story. The primitive protocells we've witnessed, with their lipid membranes and RNA-based machinery, were just the beginning of something extraordinary. These early cellular pioneers were about to embark on one of the most remarkable journeys in the history of our planet, a journey that would transform not just life itself, but the very atmosphere and chemistry of Earth. Picture, if you will, those ancient seas nearly 3 billion years ago, the world was still a harsh and alien place, with an atmosphere devoid of oxygen and skies that would appear perpetually hazy to our modern eyes. The primitive cells that had emerged from the chemical chaos were learning to harness energy in increasingly sophisticated ways. Some consumed organic molecules floating in the primordial soup, while others had discovered the art of chemosynthesis, extracting energy from the chemical bonds of simple compounds like hydrogen sulfide and ammonia. But life, as we've seen, is endlessly creative. Somewhere in those ancient waters, a group of cells stumbled upon a discovery that would change everything. They learned to capture the energy of sunlight itself, transforming the abundant carbon dioxide in the atmosphere into the organic molecules they needed to survive. This process, which we now call photosynthesis, would prove to be one of the most consequential innovations in the history of life on Earth. The earliest photosynthetic organisms were likely similar to modern cyanobacteria, though far simpler in their structure. These microscopic pioneers developed the remarkable ability to split water molecules, using the energy from sunlight to separate hydrogen from oxygen. The hydrogen would be combined with carbon dioxide to create sugars and other organic compounds, while the oxygen was released as a waste product into the atmosphere. At first, this oxygen production seemed almost insignificant. The early atmosphere contained virtually no free oxygen, and what little was produced by these photosynthetic cells was quickly absorbed by iron dissolved in the oceans, creating the banded iron formations that geologists still study today. But life, once it discovers a successful strategy, tends to proliferate with remarkable enthusiasm. Over millions of years, these photosynthetic organisms spread throughout the world's oceans. They formed vast mats and colonies, carpeting the seafloor and floating near the surface where sunlight could penetrate the water. Each day, countless trillions of these tiny cells would capture photons from the sun, split water molecules, and release oxygen into their surroundings. The process was gradual, almost imperceptible on human timescales, but relentless in its cumulative effect. The transformation that followed is known to scientists as the Great Oxidation Event, though it unfolded over hundreds of millions of years. As photosynthetic organisms continued to multiply and evolve, they began producing oxygen faster than it could be absorbed by the iron in the oceans. Free oxygen began accumulating in the atmosphere for the first time in Earth's history, rising from essentially zero to significant concentrations that would fundamentally alter the planet's chemistry. For many of the existing life forms, this oxygen revolution was catastrophic. Oxygen, despite being essential for complex life as we know it today, was actually toxic to most of the anaerobic organisms that had dominated the early Earth. These ancient cells had evolved in an oxygen-free environment, and the increasing presence of this reactive gas in the atmosphere posed a deadly threat to their survival. Many species went extinct in what some scientists call the oxygen catastrophe, one of the first major extinction events in Earth's history. Yet life, with its remarkable adaptability, found ways to not just survive but thrive in this new oxygen-rich environment. Some organisms developed sophisticated mechanisms to neutralize the harmful effects of oxygen, while others went even further, learning to harness oxygen's reactive properties for their own benefit. These cellular innovators discovered that oxygen could be used to extract far more energy from organic molecules than any previous metabolic process. The evolution of oxygen-based respiration was a game-changing development. While the anaerobic processes that had sustained early life could extract only modest amounts of energy from organic molecules, aerobic respiration could yield nearly 20 times more energy from the same resources. This dramatic increase in available energy opened up entirely new possibilities for life's complexity and diversity. With this abundant energy source, cells could afford to become larger and more structurally complex. They could invest energy in elaborate internal organization, developing specialized compartments and sophisticated molecular machinery. The stage was set for the emergence of eukaryotic cells, the complex cells that would eventually give rise to all plants, animals, and fungi. The transition from simple prokaryotic cells to complex eukaryotic cells represents one of the most significant evolutionary leaps in the history of life. Eukaryotic cells are characterized by their internal membranes and specialized structures called organelles, each performing specific functions within the cellular community. The nucleus houses the cell's DNA in a protected environment, while mitochondria serve as cellular power plants, generating the energy needed for complex biological processes. The origin of these organelles tells a fascinating story of cooperation and symbiosis. According to the widely accepted endosymbiotic theory, mitochondria were once free-living bacteria that were engulfed by larger cells. Rather than being digested, these bacterial guests formed a mutually beneficial partnership with their hosts. The bacteria provided efficient energy production through aerobic respiration, while the host cell offered protection and nutrients. Over millions of years, this partnership became so intimate that the bacteria evolved into permanent cellular residence, becoming the mitochondria we find in virtually every complex cell today. Similarly, the chloroplasts found in plant cells are thought to have originated from photosynthetic bacteria that were incorporated into early eukaryotic cells. These cellular partnerships allowed eukaryotic organisms to harness both the energy of sunlight and the power of aerobic respiration, giving them tremendous advantages in the competition for resources. The evolution of complex cells also brought about significant advances in genetic organization and regulation. While prokaryotic cells had their genetic material scattered throughout the cell, eukaryotic cells concentrated their DNA within the nucleus, protected by a double membrane. This arrangement allowed for more sophisticated control over gene expression and enabled the development of more complex developmental programs. The nuclear organization of genetic material also facilitated the evolution of sexual reproduction, another crucial innovation that would accelerate the pace of evolutionary change. While prokaryotic cells could exchange genetic material through processes like conjugation, eukaryotic cells developed elaborate mechanisms for combining genetic material from two parents, creating offspring with new combinations of traits. This genetic shuffling provided raw material for natural selection and allowed populations to adapt more quickly to changing environmental conditions. As eukaryotic cells continued to evolve, they began experimenting with multicellularity. The transition from single-celled organisms to multicellular life forms opened up vast new territories for evolutionary exploration. Cells could specialize for different functions, working together in coordinated communities that could achieve things impossible for individual cells. The earliest multicellular organisms were likely simple colonies of similar cells, perhaps resembling modern algae or some bacterial communities. But over time, these cellular societies became increasingly sophisticated, with different groups of cells taking on specialized roles. Some cells became dedicated to reproduction, others to structural support, and still others to sensing and responding to environmental changes. This division of labor among cells was the foundation for the evolution of complex organs and organ systems. Groups of cells could specialize in digestion, circulation, nervous system function, or any of the myriad processes required for complex life. The cooperation between these specialized cell types allowed multicellular organisms to grow larger, live longer, and explore ecological niches that were inaccessible to single-celled life. The development of multicellularity also enabled the evolution of more sophisticated behaviors and responses to environmental challenges. While single cells could respond to immediate chemical signals in their surroundings, multicellular organisms could develop sensory systems capable of detecting light, sound, touch, and other stimuli. They could integrate information from multiple sources and coordinate complex responses involving many different cell types. The emergence of nervous systems represented a particularly significant milestone in this evolutionary journey. Specialized nerve cells could rapidly transmit signals throughout the organism, allowing for quick responses to environmental changes and the coordination of complex behaviors. The evolution of increasingly sophisticated nervous systems would eventually lead to the development of consciousness and intelligence, though these advanced features would not appear for hundreds of millions of years. As life continued to evolve and diversify, the interplay between organisms and their environment became increasingly complex. The oxygen produced by photosynthetic organisms had not only transformed the atmosphere, but had also created new ecological opportunities. Oxygen-breathing organisms could explore terrestrial environments that had previously been uninhabitable, while the ozone layer formed by oxygen derivatives provided protection from harmful ultraviolet radiation. The evolution of more complex life forms also began to influence Earth's climate and geology in profound ways. Large, multicellular organisms could affect ocean chemistry, influence sediment formation, and even alter the planet's carbon cycle. The relationship between life and environment became a dynamic feedback system, with each influencing the other in an ongoing dance of coevolution. Throughout this remarkable journey from simple cells to complex multicellular organisms, the fundamental principles we observed in life's earlier stages remained constant. The same molecular machinery that enabled the first cells to replicate and evolve continued to operate in increasingly sophisticated forms. DNA remained the repository of genetic information. RNA continued to play crucial roles in protein synthesis, and the basic chemistry of life persisted even as organisms became vastly more complex. The story of life's early evolution reminds us that complexity emerges gradually from simplicity through the patient accumulation of small changes over vast periods of time. Each innovation, from photosynthesis to aerobic respiration to multicellularity, built upon previous developments while opening new possibilities for future evolution. The process was not directed toward any particular goal, but rather represented life's endless experimentation with new ways of surviving and thriving in an ever-changing world. As we reflect on this extraordinary transformation from simple chemical systems to complex living organisms, we gain a deeper appreciation for the remarkable journey that connects every living thing on Earth today to those first stirrings of life in the primordial oceans. The cells in our bodies carry within them the molecular legacy of billions of years of evolution, from the first self-replicating molecules to the sophisticated biological systems that enable consciousness and creativity. The emergence of complex life from simple beginnings stands as one of the most remarkable achievements in the history of our planet, a testament to the power of natural processes to create beauty, complexity, and wonder from the most basic building blocks of matter and energy. In understanding this journey, we come to see ourselves not as separate from nature, but as part of the grand evolutionary story that continues to unfold around us, connecting us to every living thing that has ever existed and will ever exist on our remarkable planet. As we venture deeper into the cosmic narrative that has brought us to this moment, we find ourselves at a profound crossroads, where the ancient dance of gravity meets the emergence of something extraordinary: the capacity for matter to contemplate itself. The same gravitational forces that shaped the first stars and wove the cosmic web into existence have now created the conditions for consciousness to arise, to look back across billions of years, and to wonder at the very processes that brought it into being. This is perhaps the most remarkable chapter in our gravitational story. For nearly 14 billion years, gravity has been the universe's patient sculptor, working tirelessly to organize matter into increasingly complex arrangements. From the simplest hydrogen atoms drawn together in the primordial darkness to the vast galactic superclusters that span hundreds of millions of light years, every structure we observe bears the fingerprints of gravity's gentle but persistent influence. But here on Earth, something unprecedented has occurred. The same force that ignited the first stars has created the conditions for life to emerge, evolve, and eventually develop the capacity for self-awareness. You are, in the most literal sense, the universe becoming conscious of itself. The atoms that comprise your body were forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars, scattered across space by stellar winds and supernovae, and then gathered once again by gravity into the rocky world we call home. Consider the extraordinary chain of gravitational events that led to your existence. The solar nebula from which our solar system formed was itself the product of countless gravitational interactions. Dense regions in the interstellar medium, compressed by the shock waves of nearby supernovae, collapsed under their own weight to form the cloud of gas and dust that would become our cosmic neighborhood. As this nebula contracted, conservation of angular momentum caused it to spin faster and flatten into a disk, establishing the plane in which all the planets would eventually form. The formation of Earth itself was a gravitational masterpiece. Countless collisions between planetesimals, each drawn together by mutual gravitational attraction, gradually built up the mass of our world. The Moon, our constant companion, likely formed from debris ejected when a Mars-sized object collided with the early Earth in a catastrophic impact that reshaped both bodies. This cosmic collision, violent as it was, proved essential for the development of life. The Moon's gravitational influence stabilizes Earth's axial tilt, preventing the wild climate swings that would occur if our planet wobbled chaotically as it spins. The Moon's gravitational pull also creates the tides that have shaped our planet's evolution in countless ways. These rhythmic rises and falls of sea level may have provided the perfect environment for the first complex organic molecules to concentrate and interact, possibly even serving as a cosmic laboratory where life first learned to replicate itself. The tidal forces that gently stretch and squeeze our planet also help maintain the geological activity that keeps Earth's magnetic field strong, protecting us from the harmful radiation that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere. As life emerged and evolved, it did so within the constant embrace of gravity. Every organism that has ever lived has been shaped by the need to exist within Earth's gravitational field. The towering redwoods that reach toward the sky do so in defiance of gravity, their massive trunks engineered to support their own weight while drawing water hundreds of feet upward from their roots. The soaring eagles that ride thermals through the atmosphere are engaged in a constant dance with gravity, using their understanding of air currents and wind patterns to achieve the miracle of flight. Even the microscopic world operates under gravity's influence. The circulation of nutrients in a single cell, the settling of organelles within the cellular matrix, the way proteins fold into their functional shapes, all occur within the subtle but ever-present gravitational environment of our planet. Life has not simply adapted to gravity. It has been fundamentally shaped by it at every level of organization. The emergence of consciousness represents perhaps the most remarkable achievement of this gravitational choreography. The human brain, with its 100 billion neurons and trillions of synaptic connections, is itself a product of evolutionary pressures that operated within Earth's gravitational field. The need to maintain balance while walking upright, to track the motion of objects falling through space, to understand the rhythm of tides and seasons, all contributed to the development of the neural networks that eventually gave rise to self-awareness. And now, through the lens of consciousness, we can perceive the full scope of gravity's influence. We can trace the paths of planets across the night sky and recognize the mathematical elegance of their orbits. We can peer through telescopes at distant galaxies and understand that they too are engaged in the same gravitational dance that governs our own cosmic neighborhood. We can detect the ripples in space-time itself, the gravitational waves that carry information about the most violent events in the universe across billions of light years. This capacity for understanding represents something unprecedented in the cosmic story. For the first time in the universe's history, matter has organized itself into structures capable of comprehending the very forces that created them. Through human consciousness, the universe has developed the ability to study itself, to ask questions about its own nature, and to slowly unravel the mysteries of its own existence. The gravitational forces that shaped your body continue to influence your daily experience in ways both obvious and subtle. The blood flowing through your veins follows patterns established by gravity's pull. The air you breathe settles in your lungs according to gravitational gradients. When you walk, your inner ear's delicate balance organs constantly monitor your orientation relative to Earth's gravitational field, allowing you to maintain your upright posture without conscious effort. But perhaps most remarkably, your very thoughts about gravity, your ability to contemplate the cosmic dance that brought you into being, occur within neurons that fire in patterns influenced by the same fundamental force. The electrical impulses that constitute your consciousness travel through brain tissue that has been shaped by billions of years of gravitational evolution. In thinking about gravity, you are gravity thinking about itself. This reflexive quality of consciousness, this ability of the universe to contemplate its own nature through the minds it has created, suggests something profound about the cosmic story we are part of. We are not separate observers of the gravitational ballet. We are participants in it, notes in the cosmic symphony that has been playing since the universe began. Our capacity for wonder, for scientific inquiry, for the kind of contemplation that allows us to trace the history of gravity across cosmic time, is itself a product of the very forces we seek to understand. The story of gravity is ultimately the story of connection. Every particle in the universe influences every other particle through gravitational attraction, creating an invisible web of relationships that spans the cosmos. You are connected to the moon through the tides, to the sun through the warmth that sustains all life, to the center of the Milky Way through the galaxy's slow rotation, and to the most distant observable galaxies through the expansion of space itself. This cosmic perspective, this ability to see yourself as part of a vast interconnected web of gravitational relationships, is perhaps consciousness's greatest gift. It allows us to recognize that we are not isolated beings struggling alone in an indifferent universe, but rather integral parts of a cosmic story that has been unfolding for nearly 14 billion years. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, temporary arrangements of matter and energy that have briefly achieved the capacity for self-reflection. As you prepare for sleep tonight, carried gently toward rest by the same gravitational forces that lit the first stars and will guide the last planets in their orbits around dying suns. Remember that you are part of something magnificent and eternal. The gravity that holds you is the same force that shapes galaxies, the same patient sculptor that has been working since the universe began to create the conditions for consciousness to arise. In your dreams, you may find yourself dancing among the stars, weightless and free, yet forever connected to the cosmic web that binds all things together. And in the morning, when you wake to find yourself still held in gravity's gentle embrace, you will continue to participate in the greatest story ever told. The story of a universe that has learned to think, to wonder, and to contemplate the very forces that brought it into being. The gravitational ballet continues, and you are both its audience and its performer, a conscious participant in the cosmic dance that connects every atom in your body to every star in the sky. Sleep well, knowing that you rest in the embrace of forces that have shaped the universe since time began, and that your very capacity for wonder is gravity's most remarkable creation. Now, as we enter the 6th chapter of our cosmic journey, we find ourselves at the threshold of something extraordinary. The universe has spent billions of years preparing for this moment, orchestrating the perfect conditions through gravity's patient choreography. We've witnessed the birth of stars, the formation of planets, and the intricate dance of celestial bodies finding their rhythm in the cosmic ballet. But all of this vast preparation has led to something even more remarkable than spiral galaxies or orbital resonances. It has led to the emergence of complexity itself, and ultimately to consciousness. Picture this: somewhere in the outer spiral arm of an ordinary galaxy, orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, a small rocky planet has achieved something unprecedented in the known universe. On this world, matter has organized itself into patterns so intricate, so delicately balanced, that it has begun to contemplate its own existence. Atoms forged in the hearts of ancient stars have arranged themselves into molecules, molecules into cells, cells into organisms, and organisms into beings capable of gazing up at the night sky and wondering about their place in the cosmic dance. This is the story of how gravity, working in concert with the other fundamental forces, has enabled the universe to become aware of itself. It's a tale that begins with the same quantum fluctuations we've encountered before, but now we'll follow their journey not just to the formation of stars and galaxies, but to the emergence of something even more profound: the capacity for wonder, for curiosity, for the very thoughts you're having as you listen to these words. The path from cosmic inflation to conscious thought is neither straight nor simple. It required countless precise conditions, each one more improbable than the last. Yet here we are, temporary arrangements of star stuff that have learned to love, to dream, to seek meaning in the vast darkness. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, consciousness emerging from the same gravitational processes that sculpted the cosmic web and set the planets spinning in their eternal dance. This transformation from simple matter to complex consciousness represents perhaps the most remarkable chapter in the gravity ballet. For billions of years, gravity gathered hydrogen and helium into the first stars, forged the heavy elements in stellar cores, and scattered them across space in supernova explosions. These elements, still following gravity's gentle guidance, accumulated into new generations of stars surrounded by planetary systems. On at least one of these worlds, and perhaps countless others, the conditions became just right for chemistry to evolve into biology, biology into complexity, and complexity into consciousness. The early Earth was a violent place, bombarded by asteroids and comets, its atmosphere poisonous, its surface molten. Yet even in this chaos, gravity was working its subtle magic. It held the atmosphere close to the planet's surface, creating pressure that would allow liquid water to exist. It stabilized Earth's rotation through the gravitational influence of the Moon, preventing the wild climate swings that would have made the evolution of complex life impossible. It maintained our planet's orbit in the habitable zone, where temperatures could support the delicate chemistry of life. But gravity's role in the emergence of consciousness goes deeper than simply providing stable conditions. The same inverse square law that governs planetary orbits also influences the behavior of molecules in the primordial soup, where life first stirred. Gravity helped concentrate organic compounds in tidal pools, where the Moon's pull created the rhythmic cycles that may have driven the first self-replicating chemical reactions. It shaped the flow of water across the planet's surface, creating the diverse environments where evolution could experiment with countless forms of complexity. As life emerged and began to evolve, gravity continued to play its part in the cosmic drama. It influenced the circulation of ocean currents, distributing heat and nutrients around the globe. It created the pressure gradients that drive weather patterns, mixing the atmosphere and creating the dynamic environment necessary for evolutionary innovation. Every raindrop that falls, every river that flows, every breath you take occurs within gravity's embrace, part of the same cosmic dance that began with the universe's first whisper of expansion. The emergence of consciousness represents a phase transition in the universe's evolution, as profound as the first ignition of nuclear fusion in stellar cores or the formation of the first galaxies. For the first time in cosmic history, matter has organized itself into patterns capable of understanding the very forces that created them. We are not just products of the gravity ballet. We are its audience, its critics, its interpreters. We alone, as far as we know, can appreciate the elegant mathematics of planetary motion, marvel at the spiral structure of galaxies, and contemplate the ultimate fate of the cosmos. This capacity for wonder is itself a remarkable achievement of cosmic evolution. The same carbon atoms that were forged in the hearts of dying stars now form the neural networks that allow you to comprehend these words. The calcium in your bones, created in ancient supernova explosions, now provides the structural framework for a being capable of questioning its own existence. The iron in your blood, once part of the core of a massive star, now carries oxygen to the brain cells that generate thoughts about the nature of reality itself. In this light, consciousness appears not as an accident or an anomaly, but as perhaps the inevitable result of the universe's long journey toward complexity. Given enough time, enough planets, enough opportunities for chemistry to experiment with new forms of organization, the emergence of self-aware matter seems almost natural. We are the universe's way of understanding itself, temporary arrangements of atoms that have learned to love, to hope, to dream of futures that extend far beyond our brief moment in cosmic time. The story of consciousness is still being written. We stand at the threshold of possibilities our ancestors could never have imagined. We are learning to extend our senses beyond the limitations of our biology, peering deeper into space and time with each new generation of telescopes and instruments. We are beginning to understand the quantum foundations of reality, the information theoretic bases of consciousness, the mathematical structures that underlie the cosmos itself. Perhaps, most remarkably, we are starting to recognize that consciousness may not be unique to Earth. The same gravitational processes that enabled the emergence of life on our planet are operating on countless worlds throughout the galaxy. Every star system represents a new experiment in complexity, a new opportunity for matter to organize itself into patterns capable of thought and wonder. We may not be alone in our contemplation of the cosmic dance. As we drift towards sleep tonight, consider the extraordinary journey that has brought us to this moment. From the first quantum fluctuations in the early universe to the formation of atoms, from the birth of stars to the creation of planets, from the emergence of life to the evolution of consciousness, we are the culmination of nearly 14 billion years of cosmic evolution. We are stardust that has learned to wonder at the stars, gravity's greatest masterpiece in the endless ballet of existence. The dance continues, and we are both its choreographers and its most appreciative audience. In our curiosity, our capacity for wonder, our ability to find beauty in the mathematical relationships that govern reality, we represent the universe's attempt to understand itself. We are the cosmos made conscious, temporary notes in an eternal symphony, brief flames of awareness in the vast darkness of space and time. Tomorrow, when you wake to see the sun climbing the morning sky, you'll witness another movement in the eternal dance that connects all things. But tonight, rest in the knowledge that you are part of something magnificent, something that began with the universe's first breath and will continue long after the last star has faded from the sky. You are consciousness itself, the universe's gift to itself, a temporary arrangement of atoms that has learned to love, to dream, and to dance with the very forces that brought you into being. The gravity ballet continues, and you are its most precious participant, carrying within your thoughts and dreams the accumulated wisdom of billions of years of cosmic evolution. Sleep well. knowing that you are held not just by Earth's gentle pull, but by the same forces that light the stars and guide the galaxies in their eternal dance through the darkness of space and time. The quantum whisper, when uncertainty became the foundation of reality. As we drift deeper into our cosmic journey, we find ourselves at the most paradoxical chapter yet, where the very act of looking changes what we see, where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, and where the universe itself seems to dance with uncertainty. This is the realm where the smallest scales of existence birthed the grandest structures we know, where quantum mechanics became the invisible conductor orchestrating the symphony of cosmic evolution. Picture this. In the earliest moments after the Big Bang, when the universe was smaller than a grain of sand, quantum fluctuations, tiny ripples in the fabric of space-time itself, were being stretched across cosmic distances. These microscopic whispers of uncertainty, governed by Heisenberg's principle that position and momentum cannot be precisely known simultaneously, became the seeds from which every galaxy, every star, every atom in your body would eventually grow. The quantum realm operates on principles that seem to defy our everyday experience. Particles can exist in superposition, occupying multiple states at once, until the moment of observation collapses them into a single reality. Photons can be entangled across vast distances, their properties mysteriously correlated in ways that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. Yet these strange quantum behaviors, playing out in the primordial universe, created the very conditions that would allow complexity to emerge from simplicity. In those first fractions of a second, quantum fields permeated the newborn cosmos. The Higgs field, that invisible ocean of potential energy, gave mass to particles through spontaneous symmetry breaking. Electromagnetic fields began their eternal dance with charged particles. The strong nuclear force, quantum chromodynamics, bound quarks into protons and neutrons with a strength that varies according to quantum uncertainty principles. These quantum fields, fluctuating and interacting in ways that could only be described probabilistically, laid the groundwork for everything that would follow. The quantum uncertainty principle itself became a creative force in cosmic evolution. In the vacuum of space, particle pairs constantly spring into existence and annihilate each other in timeframes so brief they barely register on the cosmic scale. Yet these virtual particles, borrowing energy from the quantum vacuum, contribute to the very structure of atoms and the behavior of electromagnetic fields. Even the emptiness between stars is alive with quantum activity, a bustling metropolis of possibility that exists just beyond our direct perception. As the universe expanded and cooled, quantum mechanics guided the formation of the first atoms. Electrons settled into quantum orbitals around atomic nuclei, their positions described not by precise paths, but by probability clouds, three-dimensional sculptures of likelihood that determine the chemical properties of every element. The quantum nature of these electron shells would later dictate how atoms bond with each other, creating the molecular complexity that makes life possible. The quantum mechanical properties of matter also govern the nuclear fusion processes that power stars. Deep in stellar cores, quantum tunneling allows protons to overcome their electrical repulsion and fuse together, converting hydrogen into helium and releasing the energy that makes stars shine. Without quantum mechanics, the temperature in stellar cores would never be sufficient for fusion to occur, and the universe would remain a cold, dark place filled only with hydrogen and helium. Perhaps most remarkably, quantum mechanics reveals that the universe is fundamentally interconnected in ways that transcend our classical understanding of space and time. Quantum entanglement, first demonstrated in laboratory settings, suggests that particles that have interacted remain mysteriously connected regardless of the distance separating them. This phenomenon, which operates faster than light, but cannot be used to transmit information. Hints at a deeper unity underlying the apparent separateness of cosmic structures. The quantum nature of reality also manifests in the phenomenon of decoherence, where quantum systems lose their delicate superposition states through interaction with their environment. This process, which transforms quantum possibilities into classical realities, occurs constantly throughout the universe. Every photon that strikes your retina, every air molecule that collides with your skin, represents a moment when quantum uncertainty resolves into the concrete experience of the world around you. Modern cosmology has revealed that quantum mechanics continues to shape the universe on the largest scales. Dark energy, that mysterious force driving the accelerating expansion of the universe, may be related to the quantum vacuum energy that permeates all of space. The cosmological constant, Einstein's greatest blunder, might actually represent the quantum mechanical energy of empty space itself, though the predicted value differs from observations by an astounding 120 orders of magnitude. One of the greatest unsolved puzzles in physics. Quantum field theory, the marriage of quantum mechanics and special relativity, describes matter and energy as excitations in underlying fields that permeate all of space. The particles we observe, electrons, quarks, photons, are not fundamental objects, but rather ripples in these quantum fields. This perspective reveals the universe as a vast ocean of interconnected fields, constantly fluctuating and creating the rich tapestry of phenomena we observe. The quantum realm also governs the behavior of black holes, those cosmic monsters where gravity becomes so strong that not even light can escape. Stephen Hawking's groundbreaking work showed that black holes emit radiation due to quantum effects near their event horizons, slowly evaporating over cosmic timescales. This Hawking radiation represents a profound connection between quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, and gravity, suggesting that information and entropy play fundamental roles in the structure of space-time itself. Recent discoveries in quantum biology have revealed that quantum effects may play crucial roles in biological processes. Photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert sunlight into chemical energy, appears to utilize quantum coherence to achieve near-perfect efficiency in energy transfer. The quantum compass that guides migratory birds, the quantum tunneling that enables enzymatic reactions, and the quantum effects in DNA replication all suggest that life itself has learned to harness quantum mechanics for survival and reproduction. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics, the question of how and why quantum superpositions collapse into definite states, remains one of the deepest mysteries in physics. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness plays a role in quantum measurement, while others propose that multiple parallel universes exist, each representing different outcomes of quantum events. These ideas push the boundaries of our understanding of reality itself, suggesting that the universe may be far stranger and more wonderful than we can currently imagine. As we look toward the future, quantum mechanics promises to revolutionize our technological capabilities. Quantum computers, which harness the power of superposition and entanglement, may soon solve problems that are impossible for classical computers. Quantum communication networks could provide unbreakable encryption based on the fundamental laws of physics. Quantum sensors might detect gravitational waves from the earliest moments of the universe, or probe the quantum nature of space-time itself. The quantum whisper that began in the first moments after the Big Bang continues to resonate through every aspect of our existence. From the fusion reactions that power the sun to the chemical bonds that hold your DNA together. From the superconducting materials that enable modern technology to the quantum vacuum fluctuations that permeate empty space, quantum mechanics remains the invisible conductor orchestrating the cosmic symphony. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember that you are not just a collection of classical particles, but but a quantum system of extraordinary complexity. The electrons in your neurons exist in superposition until the moment of measurement. The chemical reactions in your brain involve quantum tunneling, and the very atoms that compose your body were forged in stellar cores through quantum mechanical processes. You are a conscious arrangement of quantum fields, a temporary pattern of information and energy that has emerged from the quantum foam of space-time itself. The universe began with quantum uncertainty, and it continues to evolve according to quantum principles that blend determinism with randomness, locality with non-locality, and the possible with the actual. In this quantum dance of existence, where observation creates reality and uncertainty enables creativity, we find ourselves perfectly positioned to wonder at the strange and beautiful nature of the cosmos. The quantum whisper that seeded the formation of galaxies also whispers through every synapse in your brain, connecting you intimately to the deepest mysteries of existence. Sleep well, knowing that you are part of a quantum universe where anything is possible, where the very act of consciousness represents one of the most remarkable emergent properties of quantum complexity, and where the uncertainty principle that governs the smallest scales of reality has given birth to the magnificent certainty of stars, planets, and the endless capacity for wonder that defines the human experience. Now, we arrive at perhaps the most profound chapter in our cosmic story, where the universe itself began to contemplate its own existence. We've journeyed through the birth of stars, the formation of planets, the emergence of complex chemistry, and the delicate dance of molecules that gave rise to life. But there's something almost magical about what happened next, something that transforms our understanding of what it means to be part of this vast, interconnected cosmos. You see, life didn't simply emerge and then remain static. The same forces that brought the first self-replicating molecules into being continued their patient work, weaving ever more intricate patterns of complexity. Gravity, which had sculpted galaxies and solar systems, now worked on the smallest scales, helping to fold proteins into precisely the right shapes for biological function. The quantum mechanics that govern the behavior of atoms also determined how electrons would flow through the first primitive metabolic pathways. Picture, if you will, those early cells floating in the primordial oceans. They were already remarkable achievements, tiny universes of organized chemistry maintaining themselves against the constant pull of entropy. But within their simple boundaries, something extraordinary was beginning to unfold. The same principles that had governed the formation of stars and planets were now operating within these microscopic worlds, creating new levels of organization, new forms of complexity. The process was breathtakingly gradual. Over hundreds of millions of years, these single-celled organisms developed increasingly sophisticated ways of capturing and using energy. Some learned to harness the power of sunlight through photosynthesis, fundamentally altering the chemistry of our planet's atmosphere. Others discovered how to use oxygen, that initially toxic gas, as a powerful fuel for more efficient metabolism. Each innovation built upon the last, creating a cascade of increasing complexity that would eventually lead to the rich tapestry of life we see today. But perhaps most remarkably, these early life forms began to cooperate. In what biologists call endosymbiosis, smaller cells took up residence inside larger ones, creating partnerships that would prove more powerful than either could achieve alone. The mitochondria that power your cells today were once free-living bacteria that entered into this ancient alliance. The chloroplasts that capture sunlight in plants have a similar origin. Life was learning to build upon itself, to create new forms of organization through cooperation rather than competition alone. This process of increasing complexity wasn't random or chaotic. It followed the same deep patterns we've seen throughout our cosmic journey. Just as gravity had pulled together the first wisps of hydrogen and helium to form stars, just as those stars had forged the heavy elements needed for rocky planets, life was following its own inexorable path toward greater organization, greater complexity, greater beauty. The emergence of multicellular life represents another profound threshold in this journey. Individual cells, each already a marvel of organization, began to specialize and work together in ways that created entirely new possibilities. Some cells became dedicated to sensing the environment, others to movement, still others to reproduction. The whole became greater than the sum of its parts, creating organisms capable of behaviors and responses that would have been impossible for single cells alone. And still, the process continued. Over hundreds of millions of years, life experimented with countless forms and strategies. The Cambrian explosion saw the emergence of most major animal groups, a burst of evolutionary creativity that filled the oceans with creatures of stunning diversity. Plants conquered the land, transforming barren rock into rich soil and creating the foundation for terrestrial ecosystems. Animals followed, adapting to every conceivable niche, from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountain peaks. Throughout this vast sweep of evolutionary time, the same fundamental forces that had shaped the cosmos continued their work. Gravity influenced the development of skeletal systems, allowing organisms to grow larger and more complex. Electromagnetic forces governed the chemistry of life, enabling the intricate molecular machines that power every living cell. The quantum mechanical properties of atoms determined how genetic information could be stored and transmitted from one generation to the next. But something else was happening too, something that would prove even more remarkable than the emergence of life itself. Within the neural networks of increasingly complex organisms, new forms of organization were beginning to appear. Patterns of electrical activity that could store information, process signals, and generate responses more sophisticated than simple reflexes. The universe was developing the capacity to sense and respond to itself in entirely new ways. The evolution of nervous systems represents another profound threshold in the cosmic story. What began as simple networks of cells capable of coordinating basic behaviors gradually evolved into organs of stunning complexity. The human brain, with its 100 billion neurons and trillions of connections, represents one of the most intricate structures in the known universe. And within this neural architecture, something unprecedented emerged: consciousness itself. Consider the magnificent improbability of this moment. Atoms forged in the hearts of ancient stars, organized by billions of years of evolution into the precise configuration that allows you to contemplate your own existence. The carbon in your neurons was created in stellar furnaces that burned billions of years ago. The oxygen you breathe was produced by countless generations of photosynthetic organisms. The very thoughts you're having right now are the result of electrochemical processes that follow the same physical laws that govern the formation of galaxies. This isn't merely poetic language. It's a profound truth about the nature of reality itself. Consciousness isn't separate from the physical universe. It's an emergent property of matter, organized in sufficiently complex ways. The same forces that brought stars and planets into being have, through the patient work of evolution, created structures capable of understanding and appreciating their own cosmic origins. The emergence of consciousness represents the universe becoming aware of itself. Through the neural networks in your brain, the cosmos contemplates its own existence. When you look up at the night sky and feel a sense of wonder, you're participating in a conversation that the universe is having with itself. The atoms that make up your body are literally star stuff, organized in such a way that they can ponder their own origins and significance. This process of increasing complexity and organization continues today. human consciousness has given rise to language, art, science, and technology. We've developed the ability to peer deeper into space and time than any organism in Earth's history. We've decoded the genetic instructions that guide the development of life. We've split atoms and harnessed the power of stars. In a very real sense, we've become the universe's way of understanding itself. The tools of science that we've developed represent an extension of this cosmic process of self-discovery. When we use telescopes to observe distant galaxies, we're employing the same light that has traveled across vast reaches of space and time. When we study the fossil record, we're reading the history written in stone by billions of years of evolution. When we investigate the quantum realm, we're exploring the fundamental nature of reality itself. And perhaps most remarkably, we've begun to understand our place in this vast cosmic story. We know that we're made of elements forged in stellar cores. We understand that life emerged from simple chemical reactions and evolved through natural selection over billions of years. We can trace our lineage back through countless generations of organisms to the first primitive cells that arose in Earth's ancient oceans. This knowledge doesn't diminish our significance, it amplifies it. We're not separate from nature. We are nature. We're not observers standing outside the cosmic drama. We're participants in it. The universe has organized itself in such a way that it can contemplate its own existence, and we are the instruments of that contemplation. The emergence of human consciousness also represents the beginning of a new phase in the cosmic story. For the first time in the universe's history, matter has organized itself in such a way that it can deliberately shape its own future evolution. Through science and technology, we're gaining the ability to direct the course of our own development and that of other species. We're beginning to understand how to modify genetic codes, create new materials, and even potentially spread life to other worlds. This is both a tremendous opportunity and a profound responsibility. We're inheriting a planet shaped by billions of years of evolution, and our choices will determine what happens next. The same forces that brought us into being have also given us the capacity to influence the future course of evolution itself. The story of life's emergence on Earth is ultimately a story about the universe's inherent tendency toward greater complexity, organization, and beauty. From the first quantum fluctuations in the early universe to the emergence of consciousness, we see the same deep patterns at work. Matter and energy, guided by the fundamental forces of physics, have organized themselves into increasingly sophisticated forms, culminating in beings capable of understanding and appreciating their own cosmic origins. As we drift toward the conclusion of this cosmic journey, we can take comfort in knowing that we're part of something vast and beautiful and ongoing. The same forces that brought the first stars into being continue their work today, creating new possibilities, new forms of organization, new expressions of the universe's creative potential. We are both products of this process and participants in it, temporary arrangements of star stuff that have learned to contemplate the cosmos that created us. The formation of life on Earth wasn't an accident or an anomaly. It was the inevitable result of the universe's fundamental properties. Given enough time and the right conditions, matter will organize itself into increasingly complex forms. Life, consciousness, and intelligence may be rare in the cosmos, but they're natural expressions of the creative potential inherent in the physical laws that govern reality. In the end, the story of life's emergence is really the story of the universe coming to know itself. Through billions of years of patient evolution, the cosmos has created beings capable of understanding their own origins and significance. In contemplating the formation of life on Earth, we're participating in the universe's ongoing process of self-discovery, adding our own voices to the cosmic conversation that began with the first stirrings of quantum fluctuations in the primordial void. And so we arrive at the final movement in this extraordinary symphony of emergence. where scattered atoms learned to dream and stardust discovered it could contemplate its own origins. We've traced an almost impossibly intricate path from the universe's first whispers to the emergence of consciousness itself, witnessing how the same fundamental forces that ignited the first stars also kindled the spark of awareness in biological systems. The story we've unfolded together reveals something profound about the nature of existence itself. Life didn't emerge despite the harsh conditions of early Earth, but because of them. The very challenges that seemed insurmountable, the volcanic hellscape, the toxic atmosphere, the bombardment from space, weren't obstacles to overcome, but opportunities for chemistry to explore new possibilities. Each crisis became a crucible for innovation, each catastrophe a catalyst for complexity. Consider the remarkable cascade of events that brought us to this moment. Gravity, that gentlest of forces, gathered cosmic dust into planets and set the stage for everything that followed. Quantum mechanics, governing the behavior of the tiniest particles, determined which chemical bonds could form and which reactions could sustain themselves. The weak nuclear force enabled the radioactive decay that warmed Earth's interior, driving the geological processes that created the first land masses and ocean basins. But perhaps most remarkably, these same forces that shaped galaxies and ignited stars also learned to write the code of life itself. The carbon forged in stellar furnaces became the backbone of organic molecules. The water delivered by countless comets became the medium in which the first self-replicating systems could emerge. The energy from hydrothermal vents, powered by the same nuclear processes that light the stars, fueled the chemical reactions that assembled the building blocks of existence. The transition from chemistry to biology wasn't a sudden leap, but a gradual awakening. Somewhere in those primordial pools and deep-sea vents, molecules began to exhibit behaviors that seemed almost purposeful. They started to make copies of themselves, to respond to their environment, to evolve and adapt. The boundary between the living and non-living became beautifully blurred, revealing that life isn't a thing but a process, not a destination, but a journey of increasing complexity and organization. RNA emerged as the first great innovator, a molecule that could both store information and catalyze reactions. In those early RNA worlds, the foundations of heredity were laid. Mutations occurred, some beneficial, some harmful, and natural selection began its patient work of refinement. The first primitive cells wrapped themselves in lipid membranes, creating the first distinction between self and environment, the first biological identity. The advent of DNA brought unprecedented stability to genetic information, while proteins became the workhorses of cellular machinery. The partnership between these molecules created a system so robust and flexible that it could survive mass extinctions, adapt to changing environments, and eventually give rise to the incredible diversity of life we see today. But the story doesn't end with the emergence of single cells. The invention of photosynthesis transformed Earth's atmosphere, filling it with oxygen and creating the conditions for more complex life forms. The development of eukaryotic cells, with their intricate internal structures, opened up new possibilities for specialization and cooperation. Multicellular organisms emerged, and with them, the first stirrings of what we might recognize as behavior, communication, and eventually, consciousness. The evolution of nervous systems marked another crucial threshold. Simple networks of neurons began to process information, to remember, to learn. The same principles that governed chemical reactions now guided the flow of electrical signals through biological circuits. The universe had found a way to become aware of itself, to observe its own processes, to wonder about its own origins. What's truly extraordinary is that this entire process was driven by the same fundamental forces we discussed at the beginning. gravity continued to shape the environment, creating tides that may have helped concentrate organic molecules. Electromagnetic forces held atoms together in increasingly complex arrangements. The strong nuclear force maintained the stability of atomic nuclei, while the weak force continued to power the radioactive processes that kept Earth's interior molten and geologically active. The emergence of intelligence represents perhaps the most remarkable phase transition in the history of the universe. For the first time, matter had organized itself into patterns capable of understanding those very patterns. The carbon atoms in your brain, forged in the heart of ancient stars, now contemplate the nuclear processes that created them. The water in your cells, delivered by comets from the outer solar system, now ponders the cosmic dance that brought it here. This isn't just a story about the past, it's a glimpse into the ongoing process of cosmic evolution. The same forces that created the first cells continue to drive innovation and adaptation. The same principles that assembled the first organic molecules still govern the complex chemistry of modern life. We are not separate from this process, but integral to it, conscious participants in the universe's long journey toward greater complexity and understanding. The conditions that led to life's emergence weren't unique to Earth. Throughout the cosmos, in countless other worlds orbiting distant stars, similar processes may be unfolding. The universe may be teeming with life in forms we can barely imagine, each representing a unique solution to the challenge of organizing matter into self-sustaining evolving systems. Yet there's something uniquely precious about our particular branch of this cosmic tree. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, of appreciating its own beauty and complexity. Through our eyes, the cosmos beholds its own grandeur. Through our minds, it contemplates its own mysteries. Through our hearts, it feels wonder at its own existence. The story of life's emergence is ultimately a story about the creative power of the universe itself. From the quantum foam of the early cosmos to the neural networks of the human brain, we see the same pattern repeated at every scale. Simple rules giving rise to complex behaviors, random events leading to ordered structures, chaos resolving into beauty. This creative process continues today in every living cell, in every adaptation, in every moment of consciousness. The forces that created life haven't finished their work. They're actively shaping the future. Evolution continues, not just in biological systems, but in the ideas we generate, the technologies we develop, the societies we build. We stand at a unique moment in cosmic history. We are perhaps the first generation of humans to fully understand our place in this grand narrative, to see ourselves as part of an unbroken chain of emergence that stretches back to the birth of the universe itself. We are stardust that has learned to wonder, cosmic dust that has developed the capacity for love, atoms that have discovered they can dream. The same quantum mechanics that governed the first chemical reactions now enables the quantum processes in our brains that give rise to consciousness. The same thermodynamics that drove the first metabolic cycles continues to power every thought, every emotion, every moment of awareness. We are not observers of this cosmic process, but participants in it, co-creators of the universe's ongoing story. As we look toward the future, we see the continuation of this pattern of increasing complexity and organization. Perhaps consciousness itself will evolve new forms, new capacities we can barely imagine. Perhaps life will spread beyond Earth, carrying the spark of awareness to distant worlds. Perhaps intelligence will transcend its biological origins entirely, creating new forms of existence that we cannot yet conceive. But whatever the future holds, it will be built on the same foundation that has supported every previous phase of cosmic evolution. The fundamental forces that created the first stars will continue to shape the destiny of intelligence. The same principles that assembled the first molecules will guide the development of whatever comes next. This is the profound lesson of life's emergence. We are not separate from the universe, but expressions of its deepest nature. The creativity that drives scientific discovery, the love that binds us together, the wonder that fills us when we contemplate the cosmos. These are not accidents or anomalies, but natural expressions of the universe's tendency toward greater complexity, connection, and consciousness. The story of life's formation is really the story of the universe learning to know itself. And in that sense, every moment of awareness, every flash of understanding, every experience of beauty or love or wonder is a continuation of that original creative impulse that transformed a lifeless cosmos into a living, breathing, thinking reality. We are the universe's gift to itself, the cosmos made conscious, matter organized into patterns capable of appreciating the very forces that brought them into being. In our capacity for wonder, in our drive to understand, in our ability to love and create and dream, we see the universe's own creative power reflected back to itself. The forces that led to life's formation haven't stopped working. They continue to shape reality at every moment, in every cell, in every thought. We are not the end point of this process, but a way station on a journey that has no final destination, participants in a cosmic dance that will continue long after we're gone. And perhaps that's the most beautiful realization of all. We are part of something much larger than ourselves, something that began with the first stirrings of quantum fields and continues today in every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of consciousness. We are the universe's way of experiencing itself, of celebrating its own existence, of marveling at its own incredible journey from simplicity to complexity, from chaos to consciousness, from stardust to dreams. The story of life's emergence is ultimately our story, the tale of how the cosmos learned to think and feel and wonder. And in telling that story, in understanding our place within it, we become conscious participants in the universe's ongoing creative process, partners in the cosmic dance that transforms possibility into reality, potential into purpose, matter into mind. As we stand at this remarkable juncture in cosmic history, we find ourselves uniquely positioned to appreciate the extraordinary sequence of events that led to our existence. The formation of life on Earth was not a single miraculous moment, but rather an intricate dance of chemistry, physics, and time that unfolded over billions of years. Each step built upon the previous one, creating an ascending ladder of complexity that ultimately brought forth the very consciousness that now contemplates its own origins. The journey began in the most unlikely of places, in a universe that seemed utterly hostile to life as we know it. Yet within this apparent chaos lay the seeds of order, the fundamental forces and particles that would eventually give rise to stars, planets, and the rich chemistry of life itself. The early Earth, bombarded by asteroids and shrouded in toxic gases, might have appeared barren and hopeless to any hypothetical observer. But beneath this harsh exterior, the stage was being set for one of the universe's most extraordinary transformations. In those primordial oceans, amid the churning of hydrothermal vents and the electrical storms that lit the ancient skies, simple molecules began their tentative dance toward complexity. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, these humble elements forged in the hearts of dying stars, found new ways to combine and recombine. The formation of organic molecules was like the universe learning a new language, a chemical vocabulary that would eventually become the foundation for all biological expression. The emergence of self-replicating molecules marked a pivotal moment in this cosmic story. For the first time, matter had discovered a way to perpetuate itself, to create copies that could persist beyond the lifespan of any individual molecule. This breakthrough introduced the concept of heredity into the universe, the ability for information to be passed from one generation to the next. With heredity came the possibility of variation. And with variation came the raw material for natural selection to sculpt increasingly sophisticated forms of molecular organization. The development of cellular membranes represented another crucial milestone, creating the first true individuals in the biological sense. These lipid boundaries allowed chemical reactions to be contained and controlled, creating internal environments that could be regulated and optimized. Within these microscopic chambers, the complex machinery of life began to take shape, with specialized molecules assuming different roles in the grand symphony of cellular function. The transition from RNA to DNA as the primary repository of genetic information marked a fundamental shift towards stability and complexity. DNA's double helix structure provided a more robust platform for storing and transmitting genetic information, while its capacity for error correction and repair mechanisms ensured that beneficial mutations could be preserved while harmful ones were filtered out. This molecular innovation opened the door to increasingly sophisticated forms of life, each generation building upon the accumulated wisdom of its predecessors. Perhaps no single development was more transformative than the evolution of photosynthesis. This remarkable process allowed organisms to harness the energy of sunlight directly, converting carbon dioxide and water into organic compounds while releasing oxygen as a byproduct. The implications of this innovation were staggering. For the first time, life was no longer dependent solely on the chemical energy available in its immediate environment. Instead, organisms could tap into the virtually limitless energy streaming down from the sun, opening up new possibilities for growth, reproduction, and diversification. The Great Oxidation event that followed represents one of the most dramatic transformations in Earth's history. As photosynthetic organisms proliferated, they began to fundamentally alter the composition of the atmosphere, gradually replacing the methane and ammonia of the early Earth with the oxygen that we now take for granted. This transformation was not without its casualties, as many anaerobic organisms found themselves unable to survive in the new oxygen-rich environment. Yet this apparent catastrophe also created new opportunities, as oxygen's high reactivity made it an ideal partner for energy-releasing chemical reactions. The evolution of aerobic respiration allowed organisms to extract far more energy from organic molecules than had ever been possible before. This energy bonanza fueled the development of increasingly complex cellular structures and processes, ultimately leading to the emergence of eukaryotic cells, with their specialized organelles and sophisticated internal organization. The symbiotic relationships that gave rise to mitochondria and chloroplasts demonstrate how cooperation and mutual benefit have been driving forces in evolution from the very beginning. The transition to multicellularity represented yet another quantum leap in biological complexity. When individual cells began to specialize and work together as integrated units, entirely new possibilities emerged. Multicellular organisms could grow larger, develop specialized tissues and organs, and explore ecological niches that were simply unavailable to their single-celled ancestors. This transition laid the foundation for the incredible diversity of life forms that would eventually populate every corner of our planet. The development of nervous systems and eventually brains marked the emergence of a new kind of complexity altogether. For the first time, organisms could process information about their environment in sophisticated ways, learn from experience, and make decisions based on that learning. The evolution of consciousness represents perhaps the most profound development in the entire history of life, as it marked the point at which the universe became capable of contemplating itself. Throughout this entire journey, we must remember that gravity played a fundamental role in shaping the cosmic stage upon which life's drama unfolded. From the initial collapse of gas clouds to form stars and planets, to the orbital mechanics that keep Earth at just the right distance from the Sun, gravity's influence has been constant and crucial. Without this fundamental force, matter would never have coalesced into the complex structures necessary for life to emerge and flourish. Similarly, the quantum mechanical principles that governed the universe's earliest moments continue to influence biological processes today. The quantum tunneling that allows enzymes to catalyze reactions, the quantum coherence that may play a role in photosynthesis and bird navigation, and the fundamental uncertainty that introduces variability into molecular interactions, all remind us that life exists at the intersection of classical and quantum worlds. The story of life's formation on Earth is ultimately a story about the universe discovering its own creative potential. Each step in the evolutionary process, from the first self-replicating molecules to the emergence of human consciousness, represents a new level of cosmic self-organization and self-awareness. We are not separate from this process, but rather its most recent and perhaps most remarkable expression. As we look toward the future, we can see that the story of life's formation is far from over. Evolution continues to shape all living things, including ourselves. Our growing understanding of genetics, biochemistry, and the fundamental processes of life gives us unprecedented power to influence the direction of future evolution. We stand at the threshold of being able to consciously participate in the same creative processes that brought us into being. The formation of life on Earth teaches us that complexity and consciousness are not accidents, but rather natural outcomes of the universe's inherent tendency toward organization and self-discovery. The same forces that created the first organic molecules continue to operate today, driving the ongoing evolution of life and consciousness. We are both products and participants in this cosmic story, inheritors of 4 billion years of evolutionary innovation and pioneers of whatever comes next. In contemplating the remarkable journey from simple molecules to complex consciousness, we gain a deeper appreciation for the preciousness and improbability of our existence. Yet we also recognize that our emergence was not a fluke, but rather the inevitable result of natural processes operating over vast spans of time. The universe is not indifferent to life, but rather seems to be actively creating the conditions for its emergence and flourishing. The story of life's formation on Earth is ultimately a story about connection and continuity. We are connected to the first organic molecules through an unbroken chain of chemical and biological processes. We are connected to the stars through the elements in our bodies. We are connected to the quantum realm through the fundamental particles that make up our atoms. And we are connected to the future through our ability to consciously participate in the ongoing evolution of life and consciousness. As we continue to explore the universe and search for signs of life elsewhere, we carry with us the profound understanding that life's formation on Earth was not a unique miracle, but rather a natural expression of the universe's creative potential. The same processes that gave rise to life here may be operating on countless worlds throughout the cosmos, each telling its own unique version of this fundamental story. As we reach the end of this remarkable journey through nearly 4 billion years of evolution, we find ourselves confronting one of the most profound realizations in all of science. We are not separate from the universe, but rather its most sophisticated expression of self-awareness. Every atom in our bodies was forged in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars. Every molecule carefully assembled through eons of chemical refinement, every cell the product of countless generations of evolutionary innovation. The story we have traced reveals that life on Earth was not a miraculous accident, but rather an inevitable consequence of the universe's fundamental properties. The same physical laws that govern the dance of galaxies also orchestrated the delicate choreography of molecules in primordial oceans. The same quantum mechanics that determines the behavior of subatomic particles enabled the formation of the first self-replicating systems. The same thermodynamic principles that drive stellar evolution also powered the emergence of complexity from simplicity. What emerges from this narrative is a profound interconnectedness that spans all scales of existence. The carbon in our DNA, the oxygen we breathe, the calcium in our bones, all were created in stellar cores and distributed across the cosmos through supernovae. The water that flows through our veins once filled ancient seas where the first sparks of life flickered into existence. The energy that powers our thoughts ultimately traces back to nuclear fusion in our sun, which itself arose from the gravitational collapse of primordial gas clouds. This cosmic perspective fundamentally transforms how we understand our place in the universe. We are not observers standing apart from nature, but participants in an ongoing creative process that began with the Big Bang and continues today. Every heartbeat, every thought, every moment of consciousness represents the universe becoming aware of itself through us. We are the cosmos awakening to its own existence. The emergence of life on Earth also reveals the extraordinary power of emergence itself. Simple chemicals gave rise to complex molecules, which organized into self-replicating systems, which evolved into cells, which formed multicellular organisms, which developed nervous systems, which eventually produced consciousness capable of contemplating its own origins. At each level, new properties emerged that were not present in the components alone, demonstrating that the whole can indeed become greater than the sum of its parts. Looking forward, this story is far from over. The same evolutionary processes that shaped life on Earth continue to operate today, driving adaptation, innovation, and increasing complexity. We stand at a unique moment in cosmic history, where life has become capable of directing its own evolution through technology, medicine, and perhaps eventually expansion beyond our home planet. The search for life elsewhere in the universe takes on new meaning when we understand how life arose on Earth. If the same fundamental processes operate throughout the cosmos, then life may be far more common than we once imagined. Every exoplanet discovery, every mission to Mars, every probe sent to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn represents humanity's attempt to understand whether our story is unique or part of a larger cosmic narrative. Ultimately, the formation of life on Earth teaches us that we are both incredibly special and perfectly natural. Special because consciousness and self-awareness represent extraordinary achievements in the universe's ongoing evolution. Natural because we arose through the same physical processes that shape stars, planets, and galaxies. We are the universe's way of knowing itself, and in understanding our origins, we glimpse the magnificent creativity inherent in existence itself. I hope you have a wonderful and an amazing night. Until next time, stay curious. Keep wondering. This is Boring Science signing off. Cheers.